security, and that is being directed to me. And when I look at them, it's just a generic format. And even if I find some interest and I call somebody and I speak, they are completely out of the world, and the way they talk, it irritates me rather than it motivates me. So here is the connect. Ladies and gentlemen, I really request you to give your thought towards this noble idea. And there are many of your colleagues and your industry colleagues who have already picked up this idea, started implementing. Some of the organizations, very prominent organizations in India, in Chennai, have really foregone their GET recruitment process because they have seen tremendous success by deploying the student in the process of internship before even they graduate, so that they become a deployable resource from the day one when they graduate. So here we go. I conclude my presentation by saying explore your potential, and thanks once again for all the CHROMA members and the eminent audience sitting in front of me for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Nandri Vanakkam. It's just 1 minute. It's 1 minute.
Can we have the next presentation? Thank you very much, Mr. Dhanashekhar. Ladies and gentlemen, we now break for tea. I request you to kindly return to your seats for the next session by 11:40 a.m. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats. It's time to get started with our next session. back to the HR Imagery 2017. Now, human resource jobs are important because they involve the most important asset of an organization, and that is the labor force. This asset is formed by the individuals and groups that are very important for any business if it is to attain its objectives of running a successful business. To cope with knowledge and competence challenges related to new technological and processes of Industry 4.0, new strategic approaches for holistic human resource management are needed in companies. On this note, we would like to get started with the hardball session on HR prospects or deficits. I would like to introduce the moderator of this session, Dr. Wilfred. He is the managing partner of Roland Berger Strategy Consultants in India and heads Roland Berger's Asia Automotive Practice. He is the chairman of Roland Berger's Middle East and Africa and a member of Roland Berger's Supervisory Board. His industry focus is automotive, industrials, aerospace and defense, as well as engineering and IT service companies. However, he has worked in other areas such as metals and mining, consumer goods and retail and energy, chemical and utilities as well. He is the chairman of the National Automotive Council of ASSOCHAM and the chairman of the Indian Council of Competitiveness, a sister organization of the US Council on Competitiveness. He has held various roles in the Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers as well as the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Recently, he published the book, Riding the Tiger, an analysis of what it takes to succeed in today's VUCA markets as exemplified by doing business in India. Prior to his work with Roland Berger, Dr. Wilfred was the managing director and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage Dr. Wilfred. I would like to introduce our speakers for this session. Unfortunately, Mr. Soundararajan is unable to join us due to a personal commitment, but we also have with us Mr. Sathya Kumar, who is a National Youth Icon Award winner of UNESCO Associations. He is a chartered accountant associated with leading consultancy firms in the country. He has been invited and blessed by the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and since his childhood, Sathya follows the principles of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He has more than 8 years of experience with Big Four in the audit tax advisory. He is a member of all 3 professional accounting bodies in India, which are the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Cost and Works Accountants of India, and the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is an honorary academic board member for School of Banking in NSRM University. He is an advisor for the Tibetan Chamber of Commerce, a chairman for Expert Committee on Corporate Allied Laws, CSR, Governance and Ethics for the year 2015-16, a member of Expert Committee on Entrepreneurship, Skill Development and Innovation for Startups of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, a member of Education Committee of Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a contributor of Ease of Doing Business and Startup India Initiative of CII, and a spokesperson for the Indo-Taiwan Business Collaborations. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage Mr. Sathya Kumar. Our next speaker is an FMCG operation professional. He has done his master's and doctorate in food technology. He has a vast professional experience of more than 20 years working with renowned food industries like Parle, Coca-Cola, Tasty Bite, Britannia, and ITC in India at various capacities. He has varied experience in the field of quality assurance, operations, supply chain, and plant management. He also has an extensive experience of setting up greenfield and brownfield projects in India and abroad. He is also a qualified food safety assessor of TQM Facilitate. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage Dr. Manoj Mishra. I now invite our moderator, Dr. Wilfred, to kindly take over.
Is this thing working? Not so good? Now it's okay? Okay, good, perfect. We have the pleasure of working with Michael Porter from Harvard Business, and we had him about a year ago in the context of the Porter Prize talk about Industry 4.0, talk about the industrial Internet of Things and the Internet of Things. And basically he said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell you what is going to happen, but I can tell you it's going to be big. And I think today, even as far as what will happen has become a little bit clearer. We know today that the industrial Internet of Things, or Industry 4.0, will have a major impact on the global competitiveness of nations. It will have a major impact on the kind of competition that you will see for work and production. We believe that in many industries, automotive being one example, labor content in production will go down by about 50%. Right? So if you think I'm sitting in India, I have low-cost labor, and that typically gives me a 30% overall advantage in terms of costing, that advantage has shrunk massively and will shrink massively. So we will face a situation where we will see production going back from low-cost locations into high-cost locations. Adidas is a good example with the Speed Factory. They closed their operations in China, moved them back to Germany, and basically operate a nearly dark factory in Germany. Right? Doesn't create much jobs. Right? It's something that our friend Donald Trump may not be so happy about, but what it does do, it moves the tax base back to the developed countries. So it's something that countries such as India needs to be aware of and be focused on quite aggressively. Now, Industry 4.0, from where we sit, is going to be relevant over the next, I would say, 5-10 years. So it's not going to hit us tomorrow massively, but it will hit us de facto within our normal planning time frames. And we have today already examples of factories that have achieved dramatic increases in overall performance. Siemens is running machines and running whole factories at an equipment efficiency ratio of 99.4%. If you're honest and you run a factory at 65%, a normal Industry 3.0 factory at 65% OEE, you're probably among the global leaders. Right? So there's been a step change in terms of performance, a step change in terms of cost competitiveness, and also in terms of quality. Now, I'm extremely blessed to have with me both Sathya and Manoj that have a lot of insight into Industry 4.0. So the way we'll run this is we will start with Sathya giving his statement on Industry 4.0. Manoj will follow. We'll have a couple of questions, and then we'll just open it up to the floor to get your questions and inputs on something that is set to dramatically change the way we look at manufacturing. No? Sathya, you want to go ahead? Take the floor. You can take the floor, yes.
It's a great pleasure to be here in CHROMA. Indeed, my research on the Industry 4.0 happened in 2014 when the new government came in, and when the Prime Minister came out with the Digital India campaign. I was thinking when the Prime Minister came in, he was addressing the Industry 4.0 requirement in his policy. Ideally, whatever he has tried to bring in the Digital India campaign is actually addressing the Industry 4.0 requirement. What is that prerequisite that need to be set in, first of all, in India? I'll speak about India because the concern of the HRs today here, sitting here, is India. And I'll speak about the global scenario, why Industry 4.0 has a greater impact on India. When Prime Minister came out of the Digital India, when I went on to research about the Industry 4.0, I found that whatever the Digital India campaign that the Prime Minister has brought in is a basic fundamental thing for the Industry 4.0. We have laid the foundation of the Digital India for the Industry 4.0. How? Today, if you look at India, the India has been divided technologically. Rural area, urban area and semi-urban is actually geographic divide. But whereas if you take India, there is one part of India which is on technology, there's another part of India which is not in technology. Now it has to be connected to ensure that the Industry 4.0, which is a dream today, becomes a reality. Whether are we equipped as a country to do this? Answer is yes. If you look at the recent statistics published by the Ministry of Information Technology, by Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, he has clearly said about 1,55,000 kilometers are already connected by the optical fiber. And because of 1,55,000 kilometers has been connected by the optical fiber, all the technological requirements are also reaching to the rural people. Now this exactly is a requirement for making Industry 4.0 a reality. Now why? Until the population is connected, until the stakeholders in the country are connected, you cannot co-create products. When you are not able to co-create product, then bringing Industry 4.0 into the industry in India can only be a theoretical exercise, or it will not cater to the requirements of the country. Now, Digital India of the Government of India plus Industry 4.0 which is coming into India will definitely be a great advantage for the country as such. When I speak about the advantage, we should also look at how it could be an advantage. Presently, if you look at the India's profile from the population perspective, 60% of the population is a youth population, and this 60% of the youth population has to be provided employment. India is basically a developing nation where employment is an important aspect, where the role of HR actually comes into play. Now, this 60% has to be provided employment, and this 60% presently in our country are trained for only industry version 2. They are not trained even for the 3 or 4. When they have to be trained, the role of HR is actually there in this space. Now, why am I saying that they are only trained for industry 2? Look at their syllabus. These education institutions, whatever they teach, is a universal education approved by the AICT. We have about 10,000 institutions in the country who actually provide, who actually prescribe the syllabus, and the syllabus is actually industry 2. It is not even industry 3 actually. It is not upgraded, and whatever is upgraded, they are not bringing evolution in the syllabus framing process, and ultimately this is outdated. Now this is the challenge we have. The role of the HR squarely comes here. Now, why the role of the HR comes here? To ensure that the employment is provided for the 60% of the population. The HR is the person who is going to face the challenges of recruitment. And your management will come back and say, you are an HR here, you have to recruit and give me the resource from India. When MNC come here, or even Indian conglomerates become global, they'll push the responsibility to the HR, and you're going to have a tough time. That's where the HR, to ensure that the Industry 4.0 becomes successful, they have to reach out to the education institution, and I've strongly been propagating on all the forums, in HR forums, that HR should be the policy maker in the country with respect to education syllabi. Now, coming back to the industry concerns. Today, industry, if you look at whatever we are speaking here about the Industry 4.0 will have an impact only for the 10% of the industry in India. The rest of the 90% are in our country is only 90% are MSME or SME, micro, small and medium enterprises. Now the real challenge is making this Digital India campaign more successful and integrating this MSME into the digital platform and then bringing Industry 4.0. And world is not going to wait for India to actually